So word on the block is there's a new viral Fnaf fan game coming around.
A little over a year ago, we were blessed, or cursed depending on who you ask, with the trend of Five Nights at Freddy's ransomware videos, really picking up its steam from its original video, Five Nights at Freddy's Settings. Apparently having come to the creator of this video in a dream, this video is your run-of-the-mill ransomware or anti-piracy video. Oh no, you try to download Fnaf 1 for free. Your computer is going to fucking explode. In the end, there's nothing special about this video. However, fans became kind of attached to this overall look and vibe, and also to the insanely creepy way that Freddy looks, which apparently was made by AI as far as I could tell, so a little cringe, but don't take it from me, this part of the video has very little research over this specific aspect. And so as the year went by, we saw fan game after fan game try to create this look or take some inspirations from it. Some looked great, although the creator came out as a not very good person, and another that seems to less follow the ransomware path and forge its own look, which I respect. And here we are again, with another ransomware-ish looking game. And so you may be asking, is this game actually good? Is it scary? Is the person not someone who has done questionable stuff? And why is it the most horrifying fan game I've ever played? Well, let's get into it. When you first boot up the game, you are immediately brought into an opening cutscene, where we're met with the main antagonist of the game and literal personification of the original Five Nights, Buddy. The game takes place 10 years after the original release of the game, where we, the player, decided to revisit the game and relive all those memories that we had so long ago. But of course, we don't. We've grown old and those memories are all nothing but nostalgia, so along comes Buddy with an offer to help you relive those memories, although with one key detail. He wants total control over the application, making that very clear by even forcing you to play in windowed mode. He talks a little more, again emphasizing more and more how he will bring us that feeling of youth before we start getting a glimpse into what our friend may look like, as his face flashes behind the text. Together with this, we also hear an extra set of noises getting louder and louder until... oh boy, what do we have here? The first thing that you'll notice is, wow, Freddy really doesn't look too great. The lack of eyes is pretty apparent, also having a mouth which seems like he's constantly making a sound. The menu has a pretty obvious inspiration in the original Five Nights at Freddy's, except way weirder and way creepier, the overall analog look and noise being a lot more disturbing than the original. And I like it. We start off with night 1, where we again meet up with our friend, Buddy. He acts as the pseudo phone guy of this game. The difference being that, unlike in many fan games, where the call will be while the night is going on, and where you'll have to play the first hour or two having to also pay attention on two things, which is the call and the gameplay, which sometimes can cause you to miss some details depending on how late into the week that is. In this version, the dialogue is just a little interactive cutscene, where every time we click, it moves along with the text. The night itself only begins after we finish this whole dialogue. To summarize, he reminisces on how the place looks exactly as it did 10 years ago, saying that we should already know the drill, and to finally keep him entertained, which is exactly what we do. As should be expected, we still have the good old gameplay loop of Fnaf 1. Check the cameras to see where everyone is at, turn on the light to check if the animatronic is there, and if they're there, close it. And also, don't run out of power, otherwise you will be killed. One thing to note is that depending on the movement that you do in the game, your window will actually move in the same direction. So if you look left, your window will move left. If you move right, it will move right. This is a really cool feature that I haven't seen a lot, and really helps with adding to the effect that yes, Buddy is in control of your computer, and actually is a very creative way of recreating that ransomware feel that this game is obviously going for. When it comes to the atmosphere, very obviously the game looks pretty similar to Graveyard Shift at Freddy's, and having that extremely grainy and just off feel. Again, the game has very clear inspirations in the ransomware trend. It looks weird, wrong, it just makes you feel uncomfortable. The black and white filter over the original location helping in making the game almost feel like a nightmare, not real. Another thing to note is that the sound design is pretty great. While I'm not a big fan of music being playing during the night, here it adds to the surreal feeling. The most striking being of course Shadow Bonnie's Lullaby, or an even creepier version of what is already a creepy song. It works well, very well, but nevertheless. For night 1, we have a very simple and familiar setup. Our good old friend Bonnie, who overall works pretty much in the exact same way. He travels down the restaurant until he reaches one of your doors, with one key exception. He can actually now travel down both hallways, which to be honest, I'm not too sure about. I've never been too big of a fan of allowing Bonnie and Chica to move down both hallways instead of just one, but it's way too early to determine whether this is a positive or negative addition, so let's move on. As we finish the first night, something interesting happens. Unlike most of the other fan games out there, where we're presented to a little 6 a.m. clock as we fade into black, our clock reverts back into 12 a.m. in this really cool transition, which I've never really seen before. Buddy first tells us that he's surprised we did it. In any case, he tells us about the new animatronic of the night, Oxy Pirate, who looks like Foxy, except abnormally long, another set of lacking eyes, and of course that grotesqueness that you'd expect from this game by now. However, don't think that he is all we get from this night, as we also get the addition of Chick, this game's version of Chica. She, like Chica from Fnaf 2, has no beak, and in my opinion is the creepiest looking animatronic, and also the funniest looking. She doesn't work her Fnaf 1 counterpart. She resembles more Foxy than anything, first stepping on the dinner hall camera where she'll stay there until you hear loud footsteps approaching you, from either left or right. When that happens, you'll have to check the door where Chica is at, with this, again, funny looking expression. Of course, you know the drill. Close the door. Now that may leave you wondering, what does that leave Foxy with? Well, while he does start off in the Pirate's Cove area, his system is very different. You have a shock button which, when used, has a 1-minute timer, obviously meaning that you'll have to use this very sparingly. If you don't reset Foxy, however, that will cause him to leave, keeping open one of your 2 doors, unable to close as he will use his hook to stop you from doing so. However, he possesses another key feature, in that while your cameras are off, you can hear him sing, which, during it, he'll slowly lower his hook inside of your office. If you don't click on it, he'll kill you, but this can be easily avoided if you just click on it. Although his key feature of getting out his stage and stopping you from closing one of the doors doesn't become too prevalent until night 3, so really he's not too much of a hassle to deal with yet. Overall, I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised. I was dreadfully awaiting what was the same gameplay formula from FNAF 1, except that now Bonnie and Chica can go in each other's halls. But no, it all worked actually great. It was very fun, with Chica now acting as another form of threat that opened up for Bonnie to cover for her as the slow-moving 2-door threat. Not only that, but it also completely rid itself of the problems that some other games where Bonnie and Chica can just attack you at the same time, which ends up giving you the opportunity to neutralize both at the same time, which isn't, yeah, it's good for the player, but it also kind of ruins the scare and fun factor in my opinion. Foxy's use was also really great. One thing, however, that I did notice in this light is that using a stereo headphones or having a set of speakers greatly helps in identifying from sound cues whether they're coming from left or right. If you're only running this game by mono audio, sorry, you're going to struggle a bit. In night 3, Buddy wasn't expecting us to have made it this far, but they'll tell us to watch out, and that things are going to get a little spicier. As mentioned before, night 3 is more of the same, except that now Foxy can leave the cove and does become more of a threat, which kind of solves what normally would be a problem with the first few nights of the game, where around night 3 we hit a little stagnation point, until we expect Freddy to finally come in and spice things up again. This doesn't happen. Foxy's difficulty does cause the night to not be that boring, and I really enjoyed it. But Freddy, or Fun Bear, does still activate, which also means that I lied. It's not more of the same. And the game suddenly also gets a little bit, or depending on who may ask, a lot more difficult, which is fun. He obviously resembles Freddy, or this game's version of Freddy. Except that, like Chica and Foxy, he works completely different. During night 3, the first way that he shows up is in by a similar form to Golden Freddy, right in front of us in the office. You can counter this by having a staring contest with him, which then he'll go away after a bit. The second being that once in a while you'll hear him laugh. Wow, that is terrible spelling. Then you'll have to look onto the cameras to find where he is hiding, so he doesn't kill you. And lastly, a random code prompt will show up where you'll must type the code, otherwise he'll kill you as expected. This is a lot to unpack here, but this form of just throwing everything at once right against you, I think worked for this game's favor, and I never really got bored and was always pleasantly surprised and satisfied with nights and its difficulties. An issue I always tend to have with some fan games is both repetition and also the fact that the difficulty tends to stay relatively easy for most of the time, but to see a game that actually does challenge me and bring back this fun is wicked, and I really enjoyed this night. But we must move on into night 4. Where the usual little talk we get from Buddy looks to take a little bit of a weirder turn. Buddy again asks us if we're having fun, then wishing that this would keep going forever and ever. The game already had a very weird tone and uncomfortable feeling to it, but with Buddy now just straight up telling that he doesn't want us to leave, does leave us with some pretty clear foreshadowing on what he plans on doing. The night itself doesn't actually change. Instead, we get more of the same, except more difficult, which I can't complain about because the gameplay cycle is still pretty fun and still pretty fresh up to this point, and that good old FNAF burnout has yet to hit like a brick wall as it usually does. It was pretty enjoyable, but that also leaves us very little to talk about this night, so we must jump on straight into night 5. As has been the trend, Buddy again grows very obsessive, asking if we actually want to leave. He goes quiet, again foreshadowing something weird's to come. As you may expect, the night plays pretty normally for a large portion of it. Things are more difficult, things are faster paced. That is, until we hit night 4, when Buddy suddenly stops everything. Here his obsessiveness grows to its final point, and Buddy wants to prove that in this next greatest celebration and party of a lifetime all for you, will have you never wanting out. He doesn't want you to stop playing and wants to force you again and again and again to complete these nights. His attempt to make the perfect night for us, again taking a notable red tone in its colors and a slight waving effect also seen. It gives off less the emotions that we were accustomed to through the week of a macabre and ominous feel, almost dreamlike. Now suddenly having turned nightmare-like, and a feeling of I'm going to fucking die. This night takes a wild shift from what came before, as now we encounter ourselves against only one animatronic, Buddy, who serves us of course as the final boss of the game. Buddy functions in 3 different forms in the night, 2 of which are actual attacks. In the first attack, Buddy will slowly walk up to the door, where once he gets there, you'll want to flash him and scare him away. The second, similar to the first, he'll come down the hallway, with the exception that he's going to run down them. He'll show in the cameras too, like he does during the walk process, but only for a little. You have to react very quick to shut the door he is coming to. Otherwise, the expected will happen. The third, in which he interacts with the player, is also a form of a camera minigame. Once in a while you'll hear the sign go off, which signifies that you'll have to go and find a virus prompt in one of the cameras, where then you'll just close it off. If not, well, then get prepared for your power to be completely shut off, which then he'll jump scare you while you sit there in the dark, like in Fnaf 1. As I've mentioned, it is very helpful to have at least a pair of stereo headphones, or at least a stereo speaker system. However, for this night it's almost necessary, and that's at least according to the wiki, so don't take it from me, take it from them. The night is overall pretty fun. In terms of difficulties, again, you shouldn't really take it from me, but it was too difficult? I mean, then again, I'm insanely desensitized to FNAF games and horror games in general. And last time I called a FNAF game easy, things didn't turn out too well with me. I get it. But this fun night was pretty fun, and it was challenging in its own way. It had a very nicely done build-up that didn't feel off. It didn't feel like the developers were like, okay, we're out of content, what do we do? Oh! A boss fight! It feels like it's in line with the events of the game, which I'm not pointing fingers about any game specifically, because that's kind of a shady thing to do, but some fan games do tend to do this. Right as you hit 6 AM, the game suddenly cuts to a cutscene, where Buddy in a pose that is extremely similar to a crucifixion. Is there anything to this? Probably not, and you'll see why soon. Buddy contemplates his failures and the one thing he was supposed to do, creating the perfect experience that you'd never want to leave. He, quote, tried his best, but still wasn't enough, and that the licking flame of free choice itself will scald its very soul. In the end, Buddy apologizes for not having been enough. As the credits, where it's revealed that it was all actually an April Fool's joke and everything should not be taken seriously, although he has an up-and-coming project, so at least we have something good being cooked up, not making this a total case of blue balls, rolls. For an April Fool's joke, this game is seriously incredible. There's no other way to describe it, and I really do wonder how anything I play next will stack up. I'm pretty excited to see what this creator will bring next, because I really do have nothing but good things to say about this game, and I really recommend it. It's one of my favorite fan games of all time, if not my favorite. So you should try this for yourself, if you can handle it, of course. I don't really have much else to say here. In terms of fan games, this really was incredible. The sound design, visuals, animatronics, gameplay loop, everything was just well done. And that leaves me with very little to say besides recommending it. So I won't stick much here longer, besides my usual shit. I have a Discord, feel free to join it, make some friends, talk to people there, and even me. Maybe. Second, I have a second channel where eventually I'll post content, I don't know. And lastly, if you enjoyed the content, please feel free to subscribe. The growth my channel has experienced recently with one single video has been wicked. And I would love for that to continue, so please make my dream of finally being able to live off lazy work finally come true. But anyways, I'll see you next time.
You're right, bro. Why would I be a furry, bro? We don't like furries.